Okay, give me just 1 second. We're still trying to figure out a few things. Yep, I think it's just. So how do I like actually? I have no clue what's going on.
We got one.
How's it going?
Good. We Reagan in here too.
Yeah, I just sent it to her email from Hopefully.
Okay. He's on here. It should work. So you just gotta accept it and then hit join.
She says she didn't. I'm gonna try to send it again.
Well, I see. Yeah, she's in here. I'm like really certain. She's just gotta like accept it and then hit join.
Yeah, I sent it to her twice now, so it's
She's totally in here because it says just on the chat, like the little side chat where I sent that message, totally has, oh, bingo.
I think she just
Okay, am I in now?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. As long as it's being recorded, we're good.
Yeah, it started recording from the very first time I started broadcasting it, so it's probably about like 3 or 4.
Black, have fun with that then. All right. I'm ready whenever you guys are. What's that noise?
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear it.
All right, so let's get started here today.
Do you guys want me to start? Because if I start, you guys can come back. I mean, who wants to start for you guys' group or whatever. I mean, I can do it since it's only me. Because it's me versus you guys, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple things that my side wants to accomplish. We have the four-year contract that's expired, and GM already set up a new contract. So I think it would only be best if we had the same length of contract for this one. We can just start on length, then we can move down the checklist. So I believe we could do a 4-year deal, and then we can get started with the the profit sharing and the wages and that sort of thing. So what are you guys thinking on contract length?
On the contract, we had decided that the agreement should be at least for 10 years in order for Ford not to have too much power, and so that we all can have like an equal say inside of our contract.
We're willing to negotiate on if we get all other aspects that we want.
Yeah, sure. There's going to be some push and pull here. I just don't see how it's feasible to do a contract that's over triple the length of our previous one. I don't see how that could even be reasonable in any sort of sense. I mean, I think 4 years. The last contract was 4 years, and we're struggling to get this one set up. So there's no way we can do over 10. It isn't in the cards. No matter the power that Ford has, I think 7 years is probably the max. So we don't have any sort of strikes or anything like that.
That's something that we're willing to look into later if we can discuss some of our other issues. If we get, what we want, we're not going to have a problem having a shorter contract.
Right. Okay. Then let's get into some of the other points, and we can circle back around to contract length.
Okay. One of the major things that we were looking to do, since you guys had just received the compensation increase, we felt that we wanted a $1 an hour raise with also a 5,000 signing bonus, and that the tier wages will reach $16 within the 3 years of working.
You want to up the first tier to 16 after the 3rd year? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you guys think that we should increase wages if we're already the leader in our respective industry? Because compared to GM, who's getting $56 on average, and Chrysler, who's getting 50 on average, including all of the benefits and that sort of thing, we are paying $58, and we're already ahead of the industry. So, I mean, well above the industry average. So why do you guys think we should increase wages, which we're already the leader?
At this point, the cost of living is going up, and our people can't afford to live without the proper adjustments. And so that is our main concern, just having people being able to live. Our other concern is healthcare coverage. At this point, the average healthcare plan is $321 per month. So if we don't up the cost of living to cover these, we would be willing to take a lower wage in order to have healthcare coverage.
Isn't Ford already paying 100% of the healthcare coverage for these workers?
What was that? I couldn't hear it.
Isn't Ford already paying 100% of the healthcare coverage for these workers? They're given the opportunity to use a family plan, which they would have to pay out of pocket for. But for these particular employees, their healthcare is already covered 100%. Or am I wrong on that? I'm not.
I don't think that's the case for Tier 1 workers. It might be for Tier 2, but Tier 1 workers are not receiving that benefit as of right now.
From the healthcare benefits from the last one, it says Ford will pay 100% of healthcare benefits for all employees. Coverage for family members will be made available at an additional cost to the employee. From the previous contract that was signed off, looking to end in 2011. It's on the second page of the contract on the bottom, right before the financial statement. So with that being said, you said you would like to increase the healthcare. So how would that be plausible if we're already doing 100%, which led Ford to be paying $3.1 billion strictly on healthcare benefits for their employees? And on top of that, they paid $5.3 billion in wages, which is where that wages and profit sharing, which is where that $58 average comes in. You see what I'm like? Did you see where I was saying in the contract where it said we'll pay 100%?
I'm looking for it real quick.
You see what I'm saying in the contract where it said
Which contract are you looking at? I'm sorry.
it's the background. It's the contract that had like the Ford and UAW background, which was the very first page. And then it's like current contract is what it says. It's on a PDF that I got sent to me. So yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Very. So that's just where I'm coming from. I don't see how that could be.
But even like,
What's that?
well, I was just saying because if the healthcare was going to be like one of the reasons why we shouldn't get a raise due to the fact that you guys pay 100% of it, just the cost of living as of right now is increasing. So we feel like we're putting work into the company, we're loyal to the company, and we feel as if we should somehow be rewarded back in order to continue to help us live the life that we want to.
In what way are you wanting to be? You want the dollar?
Yeah, I don't feel like a dollar raise would be. I don't think that's too harsh of a raise for the workers. And as we said before, we don't know how long this contract will last. So towards the end, discussing the agreement of the contract will, um, what am I trying to say? The dollar raise would only be in effect for like the length of the contract, if you get what I'm saying.
Right. So that same note, if you have a long contract, like you guys said, why would you only want the dollar raise if you see inflation in the next 14 years? So what I would say is a short-term deal with no wage increase, to where after that fourth year we see inflation and we come out of the downturn of the car industry, and then we can sign off on a wage increase after we get out of this little downturn that we're witnessing right now.
So basically, what you're saying is that we're not going to do the long-term contract, and that the dollar raise is also not something we're willing to do.
I mean, we're willing to do. I mean, it's just a push and pull thing. So I just, in my head, I don't see how it would make sense to have a long-term deal, and on that long-term deal only have a $1 increase for wages. You see what I'm saying? So like in 14 years, inflation and other aspects could come into play, and that $1 could have you guys sitting $4 under the average. And currently we're $2 above the second leader in the industry.
That makes sense. I think that we would be willing to do a shorter contract, like a 5-year contract or something, to get that dollar increase and then renegotiate the terms as it comes later on.
Okay. So yeah, we can, let's just do that. We'll have a 4-year contract and the dollar increase for those 4 years for both senior and first tier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we've agreed to the contract being the same length, 4 years.
4-year contract. And then that will put senior rate at $29, correct?
Yep.
And first tier at 15, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So you guys touched on it a little bit. The cost of living. You said the cost of living has increased for the Ford employees. So I think with the dollar raise and the short-term deal, which will probably end up leading to another raise after 4 years is completed, I don't see how there could really be an increase in the cost of living for the 2 cent per 0.5 point increase in the consumer price index, the CPI. I don't think we could increase that in any way.
I think that the cost of living adjustment is still applicable because, the cost of everything's going up, and that dollar raise isn't going to cover the inflation rate, as you mentioned earlier. So I really do think that we need to stick with that 2-cent cost of living adjustment.
What was your last point there one more time? You said you think we should what?
Stick with the cost adjustment that we proposed.
Which was, it was going to increase how much?
2 cents.
So it was going to double?
Yes.
We can go back to that, because that's one of the most important pieces on my side of the deal, that that doesn't double. What do you guys have you guys looked at the GEN plan, the GEN plan? One particular in that GEN plan, the first point, the reduced customer demand would be an ineligible way to fire an employee, to lay off an employee. I think that is ridiculous. And I think that needs to be removed from that particular point in the contract. When you aren't able to lay off employees for having sales decrease by 50%, you're paying the same amount of employees to make the same amount of vehicles, to work in the same amount of factories, and you're selling half of the vehicles. So that would just basically put Ford into a spot where they are out of the market in 2 years.
At that point, I think that part-time employment can be offered, and there are other ways around it besides layoffs. If you guys would be willing to consider, part-time employment during hardships and lay this out that, we're not going to employ you full-time, and that's when you can start taking away benefits during hardship, as long as we have this laid out.
Okay. I see how part-time employment would be viable. I just don't understand how. Ford would still be making vehicles that aren't being purchased. You could have 0 cars in demand and still have the same amount of employees on the payroll. In any sort of business or industry, it makes 0 sense.
You can move people, around from the manufacturing more into the marketing and distribution. You can move people towards what you need at that time. So if you're needing sales, you can move people towards sales.
That would be super beneficial if all of our employees were cross-trained like that, and they were knowledgeable in marketing and sales and logistics. But for those employees who are on the factory line, building the vehicles, or the engineers, we're not going to expect them to also be knowledgeable in the field of marketing, or being able to sell ice to an Eskimo, if you know what I'm saying.
I think basically we just don't want to get to the point where if Ford begins to go through some type of hardship where it just starts laying off the employees, where we want them to still be able to work with us and not just lay us off, because we're there during their hard times, and so we want them to be there for us even though that they're going through hard times.
Yeah, I completely understand that. But when we're not in hard times, we're increasing wages. We're considering increasing the cost of living that is paid to employees. It's not like we're dragging our employees through the mud. We are just strictly saying, if we can't sell any cars, we're not going to be able to employ as many people as we would if we were selling millions of cars.
Has Ford considered offering a benefit where it's an EAP, where if the company was in hardship, that they would help them find other employers?
Yeah, that would definitely be something that Ford would be able to do, as Ford treats its employees better than most other companies. I just think there would obviously be there would be benefits paid to the employees after they were laid off. They would be paid percentage of their salary for the next 3 months, and I just do not see how, with 0 demand, if we're talking strictly, there was 0 cars demanded, how could we still employ all these workers? We're not making any sales. Just for example, it's obviously an outlandish argument, but potential.
We would be willing to get rid of that statement in the contract if you would put in a safety net of that EAP system that could help ensure that employees will have employment, even if it's not with Ford.
Okay. Yeah, we would do that. How about with the safety net? Let's say if demand decreases by 10%, we can, let's say, if demand decreases by 10%, that unlocks that particular point. We're able to lay off employees, but the employees that are laid off get 50% of their wages for the next 3 months as they're looking for new employment.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down and I'll say it again, just in case. Yeah, go over here. Okay, so. Okay, so what that was in the GIN plan, the first bullet, reduce customer demand. That unlocks the ability for Ford to fire employees if demand decreases by 10%, and those employees that are laid off get 50% of their wages for over the next 3 months paid to them while they're looking for a new position. Are we all on the same page on that right there?
Yeah.
All right. What's another interesting, or what's another interest for the UAW in the new contract for you guys?
I think we've covered everything on my end. Marquise, was there anything that you had that you wanted to bring up?
Have we already touched on the increase in vacation and the profit sharing benefits?
I don't think we've touched on profit
Living.
sharing. We haven't finished cost of living, and we have not finished the vacation or the signing bonus.
Okay. So let's go. Since we've already touched on it, do you guys want to go ahead and go back to the cost of living aspect? I know you were saying that the 2 cents was basically gonna was double.
Yeah, that was Reagan's proposal. It was, yeah, I think it was basically, yeah, double it for the 0.5 point increase in the CPI. Are you guys still sticking to that? I mean, I say we could do the cost of living at 2 cents. With that short-term contract, we'd be able to reconsider other positions. But with it only being a 4-year deal, we can come back to it in 5 years. So the 2% increase or 2 cent increase.
That works.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And then you guys mentioned a $5,000 signing bonus. We want to more than double our regular signing bonus after the 90 days. That's what you guys mentioned.
Okay, so the current signing bonus is $2,000.
Signing bonus.
What's that?
Currently, GM has a $5,000 signing bonus, and we would like to reciprocate that to our employees.
Because GM has a $5,000 signing bonus. You think that's okay? I think we can cut that down because we've increased wages, we've increased the cost of living that employees are compensated with. I think it would only be fair to cut that in half at like 3,500 or 4,000 instead of 5,000, because we're already paying more than GM, and then we're increasing wages. I think splitting the difference there would be probably best case.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely do 4,000 for sure.
Okay. $4,000 signing bonus.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that leaves us with the profit sharing and vacation time, if we are leaving healthcare the way it is.
Yeah, we can go on to talk about vacation.
What's that? Okay. Shoot at me and I'll bounce something back at you.
Marquise, do you have the current vacation status? I do not have it in front of me.
Right now it says it does it by seniority.
Okay.
It does it by seniority, and obviously that makes sense. I don't know necessarily where we would increase or switch that around, I guess.
Our current vacation time is basically based off of like who's been there the longest.
Right. It says 3 months is like a week. Like if you've been there for 3 months, it's like a week and 2 days. 1 year, it's 2 weeks and 2 days. 3, it's 2.5. 5, it's 3, and it just goes on and on. This is 5 weeks of it.
Adding an extra vacation day for perfect attendance employees on their milestone years. That's something that a lot of companies do, and I think that would be a great benefit to keep people motivated to come to work every day.
A perfect attendance clause in there to add 1 day. When would that start? Surely you wouldn't have that for the first 3 months of employment.
You would have to have an employee there for 1 year, probably, to have that come into play.
Okay, so that would unlock after 1 year, and then after that, would that? So perfect attendance is like, if you're just saying a no call, no show would obviously ruin that perfect attendance, but is there any other way where you could have that? Because I don't necessarily see too many people just skipping out on work. I don't know if that would pretty much just include about everyone who would be working at Ford.
In the manufacturing world, there are a lot of people who do take advantage of different, situations where they abuse the attendance policy. So I do think that this would help.
So keep it the same way it is. With after a year of employment, you have the ability to add 1 day to the current categories, I guess you could say. So like the 3 to 5, they would be able to add 1 day. So it would be 2.5 weeks plus a day if they were perfectly attendant at work.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, that's fine with me as well. I think that only leaves us with profit sharing.
I have no. Do you have any info on that, Reagan?
Profit sharing wasn't one of my main concerns on this negotiation.
Yeah.
So I would be fine leaving that the way that it is.
I think we were mainly concerned about like the wage increase, the
Okay.
cost of living increase and stuff like that. So, we will be fine with profit sharing staying the way it is.
Okay. Let me look back here. I think everything was covered. Did we have a conclusion on health insurance or healthcare?
Wasn't it you guys were going to continue to pay it since that's what's already in the contract as of now?
Okay, yeah, and then we would retouch on it
Yeah,
after 5 years and see.
I think that was the agreement for for the length of the contract staying 4 years.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I don't know. I think you guys have to write a paper, or like tell them what we concluded on.
Can I just go back over? Oh, are you going to do it?
Yeah, go for it. You can go for it because my papers are kind of scattered here.
Okay, mine is too, so bear with me. Okay, so we have $1 increase for the senior in the first tier, which puts the senior at 28, and then the first tier workers at 15. We have 29, excuse me. And the first tier at 15, we have a sign-on bonus for the amount of 4,000. The contract is staying the same length, 4 years. For the layoffs, if the demand goes below 10%,
Decreases by 10%.
about 10%. The people that are laid off for the next 3 months, they will get 50% of their salary.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you kind of I probably didn't explain it very well. So the 10% allows people to be laid off, and the
Right.
people who are laid off, after they are laid off, they get for 3 months, they get 50% of the wages that they were going to be paid
Okay.
during those 3 months. That's pretty standard. And that would just help them be able to pay bills and that type of thing.
And then we have the increase for the 2 cents in the consumer price. And then we have for perfect attendance that plus day added on to it.
Yep. After
And-
1 year of employment.
After 1 year, yeah. And profit sharing is staying the same. And I think that's all that I have, unless I'm missing something.
I think yeah, I think that's it. So I'll get into contact with Blackwood. I think he might be in his office right now. If not, I mean, he sent me an email. I didn't read it though. But I'll go up in his office and I'll talk to him and tell him we got it done, and then make sure you guys shoot him an email. I think you guys have to send him the link to this because it records it and he looks and he watches it.
I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Okay. But other than that, I think
I'll send you what I have on that, and we can finish that.
Yeah, you can go ahead and send that to me, Reagan, because I'm off for the next 2 days. So we'll go ahead and get that.
I'll try to finish it up real quick before I have to go to work, but if not, I'll have it to you by 3:30. So.
Okay, that works.
All right. Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Wow.